Hello and welcome to another SoundTrap tutorial. Today we are going to continue our work in SoundTrap, and we're focusing again on rhythmic interest and making sure that we have a way to guide the listener's ear to when big ideas happen. So this is a project that we've been working with thus far. If you've heard it in part 1 or part 2, it kind of goes like this. Now, we're going to add two things to this that I like to call build-ups, and they're probably a little bit intense for this particular track. I would not readily use them if I was personally recording this track or using it, but I think we can add it to it for you to get the idea. The first one that we're going to do is going to be kind of an introduction to this idea in the drums. So what I've done is I've drawn a box by clicking and dragging around all the regions. And then I'm simply going to move the regions over to give me more room to work with this idea. So the first build-up that I'm going to create is actually in this empty space here at the very beginning of this drum track. So I'm going to come all the way back over to the beginning and see that it's empty. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a kick drum, snare drum, and hi-hat, and we'll say tom hit. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place those on every eighth note leading into the song. So now we have this idea happening. Okay, so that's part of the concept, is that we have to have a repeated rhythmic figure. And here we do. It's eighth notes. Bum, 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 bum. So we've got the repeated figure. But to really make this a build-up, we need to go in our piano roll, and we're going to zoom in on this area right here where we've been working. Area measure 2, and we're going to switch from the pointer tool to the velocity tool. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all 4 of those notes by drawing a box around them, and we're going to change the velocity down to like 20 something. So there's 20. Now we'll do 30 something. Now we'll do 40 something. Upper 50s. '60s. Maybe in the 80s now. In the 90s. And the low hundreds. Okay, so now we're going to have a velocity ramp that steadily increases as we lead into the beginning of the song. So here's an introduction with a velocity or volume buildup rhythmically. So that led very nicely into the beginning of that song. Honestly, it fit a little bit better than I thought it would. So you could implement something like this just about anywhere you have a transition in a song. For instance, you could also put it in right here before leading to the saxophone solo. I actually want to create a different type of build-up right here at the end, leading up to the end of the song. A little bit strange that it's going to lead to the end of the song, but hopefully it'll work. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take out all of these notes. This is going to require a little bit more space. And I like to say that this particular type of build-up is more of a rhythmic build, or it's not speed. The speed of the song doesn't change, but the frequency of the notes do. So here we are. We've got our hits on, again, we're going to use the hi-hat, low tom, snare, and kick drum. So what I'm going to do is my first hit, I'm going to space out by 8 blocks. So now I'm going to place that hit. So I've got an 8-block space and an 8-block space. So the next hit is going to come in here if we maintain those 2 sets of 8. There's 8 space, here's an 8 space. Then I'm going to do a 4 space twice. And then I'm going to cut it in half again. And then I'm going to cut it in half again. So now we are just cutting the amount of space in half after we do 2 of each repetition. And this is what that sounds like. So that really draws me as a listener into that moment of the song, because the rhythm goes away and then begins to create this sense of tension by speeding up and leads to a nice little ending right there. So I think that winds up working out pretty well. So let's listen to both of those examples again as we have build-ups. One is a velocity build-up into the introduction, and then the more rhythmic build-up, building up frequency of note attacks there at the end. So that is much more interesting than what we previously had, where the rhythm never actually changed at all. Hope you found this interesting and helpful. If you did, feel free to hit the subscribe button below.